Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. We learn a lot from the people in our lives. Today, in honor of Father's Day, we're going to meet some extraordinary folks who have learned incredible lessons from their fathers. It's Lessons from Dads, today on the Real Estate Guys radio program. The Real Estate Guys are throwing a party and you're invited. Join us live at the New Orleans Investment Conference, October 12th through 15th. Now in its 48th year, it's the nation's longest-running investment conference and features some of the biggest names in economics and investing, including Jim Rickards, Danielle DiMartino Booth, Rick Rule, Doug Casey, James Grant, and George Gammon. And of course, the Real Estate Guys are speaking again this year, plus we're hosting an awesome party one of the evenings with some very special guests. So make plans today to join the Real Estate Guys at the New Orleans Investment Conference. With all that's going on in the world, no serious investor can afford to miss it. Send an email to neworleans@realestateguysradio.com and we'll get you all the details. That's neworleans@realestateguysradio.com.
If you love real estate and have always wanted to own your own business, listen up. The Real Estate Guys and their panel of experts want to teach you how to go full-time fast in the real estate syndication business. These next few years may go down in history as one of the best times ever to acquire investment real estate. There are deals everywhere if you know where to look and how to assemble the resources. The Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar will show you how to make big money doing big deals from a team of experts that have syndicated projects totaling more than $1 billion. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise or create a job for you. Attend the Secrets of Successful Syndication and learn how to build a team, raise capital, find deals, and make full-time money in 6 months or less. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. All the big players use syndication as a way to diversify risk, optimize profits, and earn big money. You can too. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events.
Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. Belated Happy Father's Day, and awesome father Russell Gray is on assignment today. Both Russ and I had the great honor of learning about life and business from our fathers. Russ's dad was a high-tech entrepreneur. You've probably heard that story here on the Real Estate Guys. And in many ways, his dad helped shape who he is today. And I have to say the same thing. My dad, Bob Helms, the Godfather of Real Estate, was not only a great role model, coached Little League Baseball, was assistant scoutmaster in my troop, but he led me on the path to first real estate investing and ultimately serving as a real estate agent for 18 years. And I learned so much from him. In fact, I often joke that Bob taught me everything I know about real estate, but not quite everything he knew. So whether or not you were blessed to have a father like Russ and I, or you were in a situation where you had father figures in your life, I think you'll find something great in today's show. And you may be wondering why there hasn't been a Real Estate Guys episode in a few weeks if you're listening to the current version. Well, we've just come off our 20th annual Investors Summit on the Sand, an extraordinary event with an amazing group of folks. And from there, I flew to Miami to be at a Rebel Capitalist Live George Gammon's event. And just yesterday, I had dinner with Robert Kiyosaki and Ken McElroy. And much of the conversation Ken and I have had this weekend has been about how we raise kids. Kenny is an extraordinary father, and he has led by example, but he's also given his kids enough rope, if you will, that they can find their own path. My two boys are just a few years behind Kenny's two boys, and so they've often looked up to Kyle and Cade in lots of different ways, including the fact that Kyle and Cade McElroy started businesses when they were very young. That inspired my boys. You may know that in June of 2018, Kenny and his son Cade, and me and my son Ethan, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and it was an amazing, amazing experience. Kenny invited a bunch of his friends and their sons, and the hike was amazing. The mountain was incredible, but the conversation with these gentlemen about how we raise awesome boys in wealthy families so that they don't become spoiled, rotten trust fund babies was extraordinary. And the reason I bring up Robert Kiyosaki, well, you'll hear about that later on the program. We have 4 guests today, each of whom is going to tell a story and some lessons about their father. I hope you enjoy listening as much as I enjoyed interviewing these extraordinary men about their extraordinary dads. It's Lessons from Dads today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Hey, it's Kyle Wilson, Jim Run's 18-year business partner, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. This Father's Day weekend, we're celebrating dads everywhere with lessons from dads. And this next gentleman had an amazing dad, and you'll know his name. Let's say hi to returning to the Real Estate Guys radio program, Mr. Tom Ziglar. Hey, Tom.
What's going on, Robert? It's great to be back.
Love to have you back. It was a great show. If people missed it, they're going to want to get back in the archives. We had a great conversation about legacy, which is just perfect for what we're talking about today. A lot of times we learn lessons from our friends, from our family, from our mom, but there's things we learn from our dad that stay with us our whole lives. Your dad was well loved by millions of people, and you didn't just keep him to yourself. You shared him with the world, and we're all appreciative of that. But Tom, take us backstage a little bit. What are some of the big lessons you got from the amazing Zig Ziglar?
Oh, I tell you, there's so many. It's hard to know where to start. I'll just share a quick story. You know, Dad passed away, and then the following February, it was cold outside, and I put a coat on, and in the coat were his gloves. And so it was pretty fresh. I put those gloves on, and it was just like I was, like he was holding my hand. It was one of those, if you've lost somebody dear to you, you know what I'm talking about. But then I started thinking, because immediately I thought about, he held my hand, he held Mom's hand, he held my sister's hands, and his dad died when he was 5. And so he never had the role model that he saw. He never saw his dad hold his mom's hand. He couldn't remember if he did. So how did he come up to be the father that automatically held hands? And this is a lesson for everybody, especially people who've had a tough background, maybe a broken home, maybe not the best situation. There was a point in Dad's life where he decided he wanted to be the best husband and the best father that he could be. I mean, he just made that choice. And so he started reading and learning and all kinds of books and studying scripture. And I think what I learned in that, reflecting on that, is that the things that are important to us, even if it's not natural, even if it wasn't the way we were raised, we can change our legacy by deciding that's who we want to become. Because in his life, it was just natural for him to hold hands. It was just the way he was. And so it's like anything, you harvest what you sow. And so that's kind of the legacy. So now we're a hugging, hand-holding family because of that.
That's such a great point, right? Your past doesn't have to indicate all of your future. Take the best things from your past and the traditions your family passed down, and then maybe choose to leave some of that to the side and start new traditions.
That's right. So, and Dad was always, his question that I learned from him was, hey, your marriage is great. What if it could be better? Your business is great. What if it could be better? Your health is great. What if it could be better? It was a relentless pursuit of getting better, but it wasn't out of anxiety or fear. It was out of, hey, better is better. Why not? And so that was another kind of lifelong lesson, but he lived it out in every area of his life, not just in the family, but in his work and with his friends and with everything.
Well, when you grow up in a family that has a different positioning in terms of your dad became quite busy, quite famous. Talk about that part of it. How were you able to maintain a somewhat normal household through all that?
Well, I think it really just boils down to Dad's humbleness, his humility. He knew where he came from. He knew how hard it was. He didn't do well in school. He struggled in sales. And he kind of rode a roller coaster. When he finally figured out what it took to be successful as a business person, he still didn't make every decision. Every decision wasn't a great decision. So he kind of went up and down. And then when he became a believer, that's when purpose really entered his life. And so he took an eternal view instead of an instant gratification view. And so that really smoothed it out. And so when people would come to him and say, wow, you're amazing, you changed my life and this and that, he would just smile and say, no, really all I did was share some truth. You're the one who took action. You should give yourself credit for that. And I know because I was in your shoes and I thought I had it figured out a dozen times and I didn't. It wasn't until I got this right. So that humility on the public stage allowed him to be real at home. Behind the scenes, he was just real. If he didn't know something, he would tell you. If he hurt your feelings, he'd apologize. If he made a mistake, which he apologized for mistakes that we didn't think he made. So that just kind of gives you an idea of where he was coming from. So he never believed his own press clippings as far as, the adulation and all that stuff. So that to me was a huge lesson for us at home.
Of course, a lot of what you spend your time doing now is making sure that those lessons and a lot of others have been preserved through your work at Ziglar.com. But, when you started out, I mean, what point did you realize, hey, people kind of are attracted to my dad? People listen to what he has to say.
Well, the first time I noticed that, really, I was 12 and it was a big convention. It was a Shackley convention. And he'd taken myself and mom, we were there, and all these crazy people were outside in the freezing cold doing a parade in a convertible Cadillac, and dad was the marshal of the parade. And I'm like, that's my dad. What's he doing up there? And so that kind of made me think. And then later on, as we would go to these events and, 10 or 20,000 people in the room would just go nuts when he would come out. That was pretty cool. But at home, he was, is all that was. He was just transparent. He was just real. He wanted to play golf or take a walk or go to Luby's cafeteria.
I was blessed enough to be at your dad's 80th birthday party, which was quite the event. And I remember him standing up on stage saying, I really believe my best is in front of me. And at the time I thought, wow, to have that kind of amazing optimism at 80 years old. But he was infectious, the way that he thought and the way that he talked and the way that he shared. How have you witnessed that rubbing off on you, if you will?
It's just this idea that dad had this sense of urgency. Okay. And so I could remember when he was in his 50s, I mean, he was in his prime, physically, mentally, spiritually, everything. So he's going hard. And then his 60s, his intensity increased. And I would think, what's going on? And he'd say, well, there's somebody else out there who we can reach, and who knows how long I have. And so his 70s kind of accelerated that because he knew that, you don't live forever. But he also knew that he was in a different category. People were listening to him in a different way. When somebody is 70 and they've got a fantastic reputation and they're eloquent, they can say things in a way that people accept that, 20 years before they'd be offended.
Right.
So then he gets into his 80s and now it's kind of, he didn't have a limit, right? He knew he could get away with just about anything, but he also knew the time was very short. And so he was more intentional about what he did. And he was telling the truth when he said, hey, I'm not retired. I'm refired. I'm just getting warmed up. And then he had some health challenges, which is, when I look at it now with going back, he had a fall and he had a brain injury, and then that developed into Alzheimer's. But even though he struggled like anybody would in that situation, his attitude and his spirit never wavered through that as it progressed. I mean, it's something you would never want to see, but at the same time, he had literally spent, 6 decades programming his mind in the right direction, his heart in the right direction. And he was touching people until the very end.
I remember the last time I saw him speak, you were right at his side, and a little prompting every now and then was all it took, and he was right back into the old Zig we all knew and loved. Thanks, Tom, for sharing with us today. Great stuff. Of course, you can still hear the wonderful words and read those words of Zig Ziglar. If you go to Ziglar.com, you also find out about the coaching programs and stuff you guys offer. But on this Father's Day, just love to hear those stories. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thanks for having me on.
There's Tom Ziglar. He's the author of the awesome book, Choose to Win. We'll have more when we come back. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Happy Father's Day. I'm Robert Helms.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
Real Estate Guys listeners, are you tired of losing real estate deals due to financing issues? Have you had enough of waiting on banks, lenders, and investor groups to fund new projects? What if there were a way to eliminate all the hassle and invest in real estate on your own terms? I'm here to tell you there is. Patrick Donahoe here from Paradigm Life. I'm an Investopedia Top 100 Most Influential Financial Advisor, and I recently wrote a best-selling book about the financial strategy that changed my entire investment model, and the one that could change yours. To get a copy of my book for free and learn how you can maximize your real estate portfolio by acting as your own bank, send an email to mybank@realestateguysradio.com. Don't make another real estate deal without reading my book first. Email mybank@realestateguysradio.com now to get your copy for free.
As real estate investors, it's no secret that the Real Estate Guys love Florida, and the Sunshine State continues to receive more than its fair share of businesses and population relocating from the Northeast, which has created a huge opportunity for real estate investors. So come join Russ and me in mid-August for our Jacksonville, Palm Coast, Ocala field trip. On this highly interactive trip, you'll get an up-close, hands-on, personal experience you'd be hard-pressed to find elsewhere. You'll feel the vibrancy of the markets, observe the quality of the infrastructure, and truly get a sense for the demographics, all things you just can't do by simply searching online. Plus, we'll introduce you to our Boots on the Ground team, and you'll meet some amazing investors from all over. To reserve your spot, go to realestateguysradio.com and click Events, where you'll find the Jacksonville field trip. There's a big difference between researching a market from afar and seeing it with your own eyes. So join the Real Estate Guys as we explore not one, but 3 amazing real estate markets. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click Events for the Jacksonville, Palm Coast, Ocala field trip. See you there.
Hi, this is Tom Wheelwright, best-selling author of Tax-Free Wealth, and you're listening to Real Estate Guys Radio.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Heard every weekend on this great radio station all the time at realestateguysradio.com. For Father's Day, it's Lessons with Dad, and the gentleman you're about to meet, his father's had a great impact on him and his 4 brothers. Let's welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio show, Chris Gronkowski. Hey, Chris.
Hey, I'm back.
Good to have you back, man.
I appreciate it.
Go Ice Shaker.
Hey, did you get one yet?
I got one, and oh my gosh, do I love it. It works. Like you said, it would keep your drink cold, and ice stays all day in that thing.
Yeah, sometimes, sometimes you got too much ice. You got to dump some out.
I guess. Now, on the show, when you were on a few months back, you told us a little bit about just what an impact your dad's been. And take us back to when you're growing up. You got a house full of 5 brothers. What are some of the things that you learned from your dad?
Yeah, man. I still don't know how he did it to this day, because I got my 4th one coming, and 3 boys is a lot. So the more kids I have, the more I appreciate what both my parents did for us. But my dad was great. I mean, he was working 2 jobs for 6 years. He was starting his own business, and I didn't even realize that until later in life. And that's how impressive it is, because he came and he coached us for years. He was at all of our games, and he was always there to teach us, how to play baseball, how to play hockey, all that. So even with as much as he had going on, he was always there for us, which was super impressive.
And when you have a house full of boys, I'm sure it's a busy schedule and there's all those things going on, but he found time to kind of shape you guys. I mean, to know that all 5 brothers made it to professional sports is incredible. I know the odds against that are incredible, but what are some of the ways that he just kept you encouraged and kept your head in the game?
Yeah, so one thing he did for sure is definitely disciplined us. That's for sure. So we got a lot of smackdown back in the day too. But one of the things that both parents did to raise us was they made us earn everything we had. So it was never a handout. It was always, hey, if you want it, get a job and earn it, go buy it. So, we had a newspaper out when I was maybe 10. And the responsibility there was, hey, there's 5 of you, find a way to get it done today. I don't care which one does it. you guys are going to figure out a way to get this done today. So that was definitely a great way to first learn how to kind of manage money, but also how to get the responsibility done between 5 people as a team. Sometimes one person would do it. Sometimes all 5 would do it. It all just however we wanted to work it out. So, I was umpiring when I was super young. I think I was 12. I was working for my dad when I was 16, delivering treadmills. So if we wanted it, we just had to earn it. If you wanted to go to college, you're going to pay for it. If you want to get a car, awesome. Go find a way to buy a car. So it was never handed to us, which I love, because at first I don't think my parents could actually afford to give us anything, but once they could, it never changed. And now that I have kids, I look back and I'm like, that's such a hard thing to do, because you want to give your kids everything, and it's so easy to say yes. It actually takes a lot of discipline to say no. So now when my kids, hey, I want the candy, when you're walking through the candy aisle, it's kind of like, hey, you're not getting it. And, they're going to cry. They're going to throw a fit. I remember as kids, we used to have the Burger King chant. Every time we drove by Burger King, we did BK, BK. We scream it, the whole car screaming it. And my mom never once stopped, unless it was like some big occasion. She would never stop and let us go. So it was just one of those things where no matter what, we weren't just going to get what we wanted. We had to earn it.
Now, Chris, you spent 4 years in the NFL and then went into business. Your wife's business became quite successful there. And then you got on Shark Tank and in business with Mark Cuban. And that's an amazing story. And your dad lends a hand there as well. He's been in business himself over 30 years. Talk about that part of it. Now that you're quote unquote grown up, you're running a real business, you got real employees. Now, what are some of the lessons your dad's taught you?
Yeah, he tried to teach me a lot. I know I hit it on this a little bit on the last time I was on, but those first 2 years I didn't really listen. And that was probably one of the biggest mistakes that I made. The things that he kept hitting on was, budget and forecast. That was big. Incentivizing people. That was huge as well. None of these things I listened to until about 3 years in. At that point, I reached back out to him and said, Dad, how do you do it? He actually sent me over his whole budget and forecast. And, of course, I copied that whole Excel sheet. I changed everything to fit my business instead. It was probably one of the greatest things that I ever got handed to me. So he said that he actually had a whole consulting firm come in. They came through. We paid thousands of dollars for these people to come in for a couple of days and just run through his whole business and help him set it up the right way. So I got this free. My dad's been trying to hand it to me for years. I didn't listen. I finally did. And, his thing was, when they did this for me, we 3X the company. And I said, all right, well, I got to do that too. So that same year that I put that in place, we 3X the company as well.
Awesome. Now, you did not go to work for your dad's company. Some of your brothers did. One of your brothers is an investor in your company. Talk about working with family and how that changes the dynamic.
Yeah. So, it's tough. I started with mostly just bringing family into the company at first for Ice Shaker and for my wife's company. And it puts a lot of stress on a lot of people for different reasons. And, you're now the boss of someone in your own family, and it's tough. So I think we have this really cool dynamic. No one in our family actually directly works on top of each other. My 2 older brothers, one of them does the marketing for my dad. One of them runs the whole New England territory for my dad. And then what's really cool is that I'm not in my dad's business. The younger brother's not either, but we're all in the sports and fitness category. So we're always helping each other out. We're always doing things together. We're talking together every week, but we're not actually, working on the same exact business or competing with each other. So we're always just finding ways to help each other out.
Well, good stuff. Well, thanks for coming back, and congratulations on your success. If you want to learn more about what Chris does, go to iceshaker.com. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
It's Lessons from Dad today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, ever wished you could go back in time and do some tax planning? Now you can, just like Marty McFly. Lucky for you, a brand new federal law just made this possible with an EQRP to get tax deductions and reduce your taxable income from last year, so you can use that tax savings to invest in real estate, Bitcoin, gold, even your own business. Whether you're a full-time investor, doctor, government employee, even if you have 5 or 50 employees, the EQRP works and is your secret weapon, and now it's retroactive. Hey, I'm Damian Lupo, and we have your solution. By the way, if you got bad advice and used an IRA for an apartment syndication, you are sitting on a U-bit time bomb. But don't worry, there's a solution, the EQRP. EQRP Company is ready to help you get control of your money, kill UBIT, and help you pay way less taxes. Want to learn more about this strategy? Send an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com for my special EQRP report. Paying tax or letting Wall Street suck you dry is dumb. Your first step is freeing your retirement money by sending an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com today.
Having trouble finding deals where the numbers make sense? Invest in an asset class that delivers cash flow to you in good times and bad, and where most of that cash flow is tax-free. I'm Dave Zook. Many of you have heard me speak at Real Estate Guys events or heard me on their podcast. My team is a top 5 ATM operator in the country, and right now accredited investors can make cash flow returns well into the double digits and get huge tax deductions. For your free report on this lucrative asset class, email atm@realestateguysradio.com.
Memphis is famous for being the home of the king of rock and roll, but it's also the king of cash flow. If you're looking for affordable cash flow properties, it's hard to beat Memphis. Get your portfolio rocking and more cash flowing your way by calling Terry Kerr at Mid-South Home Buyers. Terry's the king of turnkey properties. Contact Terry through the resource section at realestateguysradio.com. And be sure to order Terry's tips for turnkey rental property investing report. It's free. Just send your request to turnkey@realestateguysradio.com.
Hi, I'm Mark Victor Hans. You're listening to The Real Estate Guys. If you want to expand your consciousness, expand your wealth, expand your future, and have more delight and excite in your future than in your past, keep listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Hey, if you're looking for an extraordinary and different real estate market with lots of upside opportunity, come join me in beautiful Belize. It's our Belize Discovery trip coming up at the end of August. You can get all the details on the website at realestateguysradio.com under events. It's Lessons from Dads, what our dads taught us. And before we get back to more interviews with extraordinary folks, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia. That's your chance to win a prize by knowing today's Real Estate Trivia question. When you hear the question and know the answer, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Give us your name, the answer to the question, and your physical mailing address. Because if you're the winner, you're going to get an autographed copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Whether you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad or not, and I hope you have, getting an autographed copy is pretty cool. On our last show, we asked this: where in the world will you find Dinkytown? Yeah, Dinkytown. Well, it's a commercial district within the Marcy Holmes neighborhood in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Centered at 14th Avenue Southeast and 4th Street Southeast, the district contains several city blocks occupied by various small businesses, restaurants, bars, and apartment buildings that house mostly University of Minnesota students. That's Dinkytown. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. For an autographed copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where was the first celebration of Father's Day? We're celebrating a little late this year, but where was the first celebration of Father's Day? If you think you know, or just want to guess, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Give us your name, your physical mailing address, and the answer to the question. The first one who gets it right gets a great book about dads, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, signed by Robert Kiyosaki. Up next, more lessons from dads on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Hello, I'm Brian Tracy, and I'm here today with Robert Helms. He's one of the Real Estate Guys, and he always has wonderful ideas to share with you that can improve your life, improve your income, and help you to achieve more than you ever thought possible.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning in. It's lessons from dads, things we've learned from our parents and especially our fathers. Let's welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, Jim Griffin. Hey, Jim.
Hello, how are you today?
All is well. It's good to see you. And people have maybe heard you on our show talking about notes, which is what you do in your business life. But I don't even know that everybody on the listening audience knows that your dad is Ed Griffin, G. Edward Griffin, the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, a man we've come to love and adore. And you've known him longer than we have.
Yes, it's all true.
So tell us, what are some of the big lessons that over the years you've learned from your dad?
Well, I've learned so many lessons from him. But, even before I talk about lessons, you were saying how much you know and love him. And I have to say how much he loves you guys. And, we're interviewing from here in Belize. And I don't know how many times he's told me in this week how tickled he is. The word that he used was tickled, that I'm now connected with you guys and how things are moving ahead. And so he's so happy about that. So I just wanted to start by saying that.
Well, thanks for that.
One of the things that I think anyone might imagine about somebody who would write a book like The Creature from Jekyll Island is that he's a person who is open, let's say, to new ideas or to unorthodox ideas. And you can imagine growing up as a young boy, we automatically think ourselves to be very wise. And we might look at someone older than us and wonder, why are they so open to this idea or that idea? That seems like a crazy idea to me. But even at a very young age, we learn to put filters on things. We might look at somebody and we might say, that person's kind of weird. Why would you listen to them? But one of the things about my father is that he's always leaned in. I mean, in the end, he might dismiss an idea, but he doesn't do that up front. It isn't a priori, as they say.
Right.
So he'll listen in, and then he'll get all the facts, and then he'll make a decision. That's a big thing that I learned from him.
That's a great lesson in life, is to listen to kind of both sides. Russ always talks about waiting 48 hours before you make any action based on a reaction. And your dad is very methodical, but also I think that's what gives him the skills as a researcher. When you start out on a project of any kind, and he's, of course, done research on cancer and just all kinds of different things, not just the Federal Reserve. You don't know much about it, and so you learn, and you have to take in all sides, and then, only then, kind of make a decision. Now, last night we were talking about one of his lesser-known abilities, and that is to tell ghost stories.
Yeah, so that did come up last night. It's amazing, this ability to just weave a tale. And, it's interesting because that started... My parents met in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, and then my father went into the service, and I was born in El Paso, Texas as a result of that. And then the family moved to California. Why did they move to California specifically? What's the reason? And the truth is that my father was thinking about getting involved in Hollywood. He wanted to be a film producer, and
Right.
he started by creating an idea for a television program based upon ghost stories. Something like what was eventually actually produced years ago, with a very interesting kind of a character who did the narration about all the different ghost stories. But yeah, he tried to break into Hollywood, and then he learned that it's not so easy. Very talented people are trying to get jobs in Hollywood, and then he also learned a little bit about what Hollywood really is, and then it started a transition towards what had become his career and his focus ever since. But that the ghost stories go way back, and yes, the telling of the ghost stories to the little children all gathering around the campfire, that was great fun.
Let's talk about another thing about your dad, and that is that your parents have been married almost 70 years. That's extraordinary by any measure. But from your perspective, growing up in that household, watching how your mom and dad relate to each other, any lessons there?
Well, obviously, it's always clear when you have a marriage that lasts so long that both of the partners in the marriage are leaning in to try to make sure that it preserves, because it's not an easy thing. It's not for the weak at heart. So you really need to really lean in, and I've witnessed that on both sides, and so yeah, it's very inspiring.
Now, we hope your dad's around for years and years and years. But at some point, we're all going to have our memories and his legacy. What do you think your dad's legacy is?
Well, it really is amazing. And it's hard to see, how many times have I seen somebody come up to him and say, boy, your book changed my life. Your book changed my life. And it's obviously true. And he himself says, boy, it's kind of amazing to me, when I hear that, and I hear it again and I hear it again. But, it's funny, all of us have this power to change a life in a little way with a few words. And I give you a little example of this, and this gets back to my father again. But I am embarrassed to admit that there was a time when I used to drink a lot of soft drinks, Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew, a lot. I would buy it in the liter bottle, and I would pour it over ice, and I thought that just tasted amazing. I never drink soft drinks now, but I did then. And when you're trying to tell somebody that it's not a good idea, if you launch into a big sermon about it, sometimes it doesn't really go over well. But I remember distinctly talking about that and say, yeah, I love to drink a lot of Mountain Dew. My father just said, white water ahead. And then he changed the conversation. And it's like, white water ahead? I don't want white water ahead. You know how something kind of in the Bible it says, you plant the seed and then it comes from the earth and it grows and finally it develops its own grains and so forth and so on. So the few words that we say, well placed and then backing off, can often have a very powerful impact. And so, yeah, of course, those of us who can write a book, well, that's that on steroids.
That is awesome. Jim, thanks so much for sharing, and thanks for being a part of today's show.
Thank you also.
There's Jim Griffin. More lessons from Dad when we come back. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, it's Robert Helms. Thanks so much for listening to the show today. I want to personally invite you to come see an amazing real estate market that combines excellent cash flow, offshore diversification, and what we affectionately call lifestyle investing. Come join me from August 26th to 29th in the beautiful country of Belize. The Real Estate Guys have been bringing investors to Belize for more than 15 years now, and our discovery trip is designed to show you the market like nobody else can. Sure, Belize is breathtakingly beautiful, the people are wonderful, and wait till you taste the food. But the real opportunity is the real estate investment potential. Demand for offshore real estate has skyrocketed since the coronavirus shutdown, and with retirees looking for lifestyle, the work-from-home workforce able to be productive from afar, and tourism coming back strong, now may be the perfect time to consider Belize as a place to diversify risk in your investment portfolio. There's all types of opportunity in Belize when it comes to real estate investing, including both long and short-term rentals, commercial and retail triple net properties, business opportunities, land acquisition, development, agriculture, and more. And as the only country in Latin America with English as its official language, it's easy to understand the law. Property rights are strong, and real estate contracts are in English. And at Ambergris Caye, a unique situation exists where demand for rentals continues to outstrip supply, creating a compelling environment for investors. So come see for yourself. Join me in August in Ambergris Caye, Belize, as we study the market, learn about the sustainable drivers, and tour lots of beautiful real estate. And like all of our field trips, there are no properties for sale during the weekend. Rather, you'll meet lots of local providers that will help educate you about the market so that you can follow up with them after the trip if the market is interesting to you. You've heard about Belize and the Real Estate Guys for all these years. Now come see what all the excitement is about. Plus, we'll have lots of time over meals and activities to talk about all things real estate. To get the details, go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and click on events where you'll find the Belize Discovery Trip. Once you register, you'll get information about our group hotel rates as well as travel details. So join me in Belize, August 26th to 29th. It's a beautiful country with lots of amazing possibilities, and the only thing missing is you. Go to realestateguysradio.com under events, and I look forward to seeing you in beautiful Belize.
Hey, I'm Jim Grant. I am the editor and indeed the founder of Grant's Interest Rate Observer, and you, ladies and gentlemen, you lucky people, are listening to the Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, now in our 26th year of broadcast. Happy Father's Day to the dads out there. We're talking about lessons that we've learned from our dads, and our next son is going to share some lessons from his really amazing dad. Please welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, Peter Schiff. Hey, Peter.
Hey, Robert. How are you?
I'm good. Happy Father's Day to you. Boy, your dad, Erwin, was just an amazing and different guy. Russ Gray on the show here. I mean, he recounts going to see your dad speak years and years ago and what an impact it made. Tell us about some of the big things you learned from your dad.
Well, I learned so much from my dad. It's really even hard to begin. And, you probably had similar situation with your father. I think probably he was a big influence on your life. And I'm glad I had an opportunity to spend the time that I did with him, because he really was a great guy. So, everything I know about economics, really, I credit to my father. I mean, it's hard to say what I would have learned on my own, because there are a lot of people that, have the same philosophy that I do, but they didn't have a father like mine. In fact, they may have had a father that is similar to my father's father, my grandfather. He was a big Democrat. I mean, my dad always talks about how his father was a big supporter of Roosevelt. And, he believed in all the promise of the New Deal. And so my father was very much a rebel in that respect, in that he was going against what his father was teaching. And in fact, my father grew up in a Jewish neighborhood in Connecticut. And in general, the Jews that he grew up with were very liberal. And so, he really had a difficult path to forge to get to that knowledge and understanding. And it was much easier for me because my father just not only put me on that path, but, he really, taught me stuff and explained things to me and gave me some books to read before he ended up writing books of his own, when I was young. And a lot of the stories he would tell us, my brother and I, as little kids, there was some economics going on there. So he would be teaching us as he was entertaining us, and in a way that he was able to. He had a very good way of expressing himself. He had a great sense of humor. He also was able to come up with a lot of funny stories or anecdotes to explain to me as a little kid a lot of these concepts, these economic concepts. And much of my own style today comes from my father, right? I try to explain to the listeners of my podcasts economic concepts the way my dad used to explain them to me, because I was a little kid, and so what did I know? And not that I'm insulting the intelligence of my audience, but it's just easier for people to get things when you have that type of style in your delivery. And and my dad didn't just teach me about economics; he taught me about America and what made America different from other countries, taught me to understand the Constitution and the meaning of it and the founders, and a lot of these principles that are lost on so many Americans today. I mean, they just have no clue what this country is about. They think it's about getting free stuff from the government. We're all entitled to this and we're entitled to that. It's not, the nation of rugged individuals, that my grandparents emigrated to, right? Because my father's parents and my mother's parents, none of them were born in this country. They all came to this country, and none of them came here for a handout. Nobody said, "Oh, I want to go to America because I get free healthcare, or I get free education." If they wanted free stuff from government, they would have stayed in Europe.
Right.
They didn't want any more free stuff from government. It was too expensive.
Yeah.
They wanted to be free from government. That's why they all came here, right? They wanted to be left alone. They wanted to be able to succeed, and governments in Europe were obstacles to their success. So they came here, by the millions, to be free. So my father is able to explain a lot of this stuff to me. And so, when I went to high school and I went to college, they couldn't brainwash me because so many other people, they don't have that experience that I did. And so they're vulnerable. And so their socialist teachers fill their heads with a bunch of nonsense, and the nonsense stays in there. My head was already filled up with logic and common sense, so there was no room for all that nonsense. So I was able to get through high school, get through 4 years at UC Berkeley with my head on straight, thanks to my dad. Lots of other people weren't as fortunate, right? They came out like Archie Bunker used to say, they're meatheads.
Well, it is interesting, as we look at the relationships with our parents, there are some kids that go off in the other direction, kind of like your dad and your grandfather. And then there are kids like you that kind of follow in their father's footsteps. And who knows why that is, right? Two siblings raised in the same house might have different paths.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of a rebellious nature when it comes to kids. I mean, look at Spencer, right? Spencer and me. Now, first of all, Spencer isn't a complete rebel because he's really, understands and really believes in a lot of the free market principles that I taught him when he was younger.
But he's a crypto rebel.
I mean, he's actually gone over worse. He's an anarcho-capitalist. I mean, I succeeded too much. I got him to hate government so much he doesn't want any of it. I try to say, hey, you gotta have a little. I mean, anarchy doesn't work either because but he's still a little bit idealistic in his approach. And so if you're a free market libertarian, in your ideal world, there's zero government. And that would be a great world if we could actually have it. The problem is we have to live in reality, not in a libertarian fantasy world where, we can have no government. So my approach is, look, we got to set up a government to prevent a worse one from coming later. Just we have to succeed in limiting its powers, right, and keeping it in check, because it's like anarchy is like a vacuum, and that vacuum is going to get filled by something, and so I want to fill it first with something we can control, then allow something that we can't. But where he is really like completely, the opposite of me, and rebelling against me, is with Bitcoin. He's like totally. Bitcoin is, everything to him. He's a Bitcoin maximalist, which, I'm, very well known for being anti-Bitcoin. Not that I don't appreciate some of the ideals and goals behind some of the people that are in that movement and in that industry. In fact, I have some really good friends, especially now that I moved to Puerto Rico, that are in the crypto space. Some of them are Bitcoin maximalists. Many of them are not, they're in other cryptocurrencies, but I just know it's not going to work. I just think all these efforts are misguided. I think all this capital is being malinvested. I would much rather see the emphasis and the effort put towards a viable solution to fiat currency, maybe digital currency backed by gold, like something real, going back to real money instead of trying to replace one form of fiat with another form of fiat. Neither is going to work. But Spencer is totally, involved in crypto. He's developed his own kind of following. He's got, like 125,000 Twitter followers, which is about a quarter of the number I have. So he's gotten a pretty good following, by being an advocate for crypto. So, but hopefully he'll see the error of his ways before he loses too much money, and he'll be, following every bit as much in my footsteps as I followed in my father's. Although I didn't do everything my father advocated. My father wasn't paying taxes, at least not income taxes.
He wrote about that. He spoke about that.
Yeah, and he was very passionate and very committed. And as a result, he spent much of his adult life in a prison, including the last 10 years of his life. And his life was cut short as a result of being in prison because he died of basically skin cancer that was never treated, and ultimately became an inoperable lung cancer by the time they finally noticed that he was sick in a government hospital slash jail. My father would probably still be alive today. I mean, he had good genes. He was very healthy. I think he would have lived, well into his 90s, maybe into his hundreds. I mean, he was a healthy person, but he died at 87 in government custody. But, it wasn't a relaxing retirement that he had. He didn't get to spend time with his family. He barely knew my younger children. I mean, he barely knew Spencer. He met him a few times, but mostly as a visitor in prison. But he met my second son, I think, once. He died before my daughter was born. And so not only did he get robbed of his relationship with my kids got robbed of their relationship with their grandfather. And so that's unfortunate. I mean, I would have liked them to have known him, to have some memory. Now, fortunately, there's some stuff on the internet. He has radio shows he did, his shortwave shows. There are some talks that are on video. I mean, not nearly the extent that, that I have stuff. I mean, I could have great grandchildren or whatever that might never meet me. But I mean, there's so much now. And that's not just me. I mean, we all have so much content now just on our social media that, people can kind of get to know us who haven't met us. But there wasn't nearly as much of that going on, with my dad. So, but I didn't follow his advice in that respect. I'm not fighting the government, even though I believe like my dad was right in what he was trying to do. And I think he was correct in his understanding of the law and the Constitution and the government's violation of it. But I just concede the government is very powerful and they've got the guns, and it doesn't matter who's right. Might makes right, and they've got the might. That's not the way it should be. We're supposed to be a nation of laws. Instead, we're a nation of men in government who enforce whatever they want. So I just took a different path, and I paid a lot of taxes over my life until I finally moved to Puerto Rico, and I'm now, finally, not having to do that. But I'm not doing it in a way that the U.S. government says is okay, right? Because my dad was trying to do it in a way that the government opposed. I'm just trying to play by their new rules, not, trying to force them to abide by the Constitution or abide by laws that they wanted to ignore. I'm just going by the regulations that they're willing to accept, right? And so the U.S. government said, hey, if you move to Puerto Rico, then you don't have to pay any taxes on the money you earn in Puerto Rico. Okay, I moved to Puerto Rico. I did exactly what they told me to do. In that respect, I'm lowering my taxes, but I hope I'm doing it in a way that doesn't, land me in jail. Because I saw how my father lived. I don't want to live that way. I much rather live where I am.
Yeah, even that's a lesson from your dad. I remember when we first talked about it, you said he just pushed it too far. But obviously, what a great foundation, just his knowledge and the way he could explain things. And you have certainly risen to that as well, my friend. Thank you for sharing that with us. We appreciate it. And happy Father's Day to you, Peter.
Happy Father's Day right back at you.
There's Peter Schiff, like maybe you haven't heard him before. As we wrap up Lessons with Dads, big thanks to Tom Ziglar, Chris Gronkowski, Jim Griffin, and Peter Schiff for sharing some great lessons from their fathers. Hey, coming up, the Real Estate Guys are back at it. We've got 2 shows that we recorded at the 20th Annual Investors Summit on Sand. Lots of great guests there. We'll also hear from attorney Mauricio Raould talking specifically about passive investing and what you need to know to come alongside bigger deals. Plus, lots of great guests this summer. Looking forward to it. By the way, if you're interested in the 21st Annual Investors Summit, tickets are not on sale yet, but you can get on the advance notice list if you go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and click on the button that says Summit. Details have not been finalized, but get yourself on the list. We sold out 13 weeks before the event this year, and I'm guessing that'll happen again. So we'd love to have you with us. Russ Gray will return next week. Until then, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and rich dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys Radio Show.